Episode 30.
30. Ooh,
30.
another milestone.
Another milestone. That's exciting.
Yeah, very.
Wow. Welcome to Girls Gone Spooky.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
We're here again.
Welcome back. Here again. Well, as promised, we are continuing our haunted city/places tour, and we are hopping across the pond to England.
Jolly old England. I doubt they actually say that.
No, probably not.
Jolly old England.
Yeah,
but
probably not. Hello, governor. I'm so sorry for any UK listeners. I really apologize.
Well, we can't resist.
Cannot resist. Sorry, can't resist.
Not my problem.
Not my problem. Okay, let's see. Who's going first this week?
I think it's you this week.
It's me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's just dive right in. Also, our mascot, my cat, is being an absolute pill today. So I apologize in advance if you hear his teeth scratching on the microphone. I'm trying to wrangle him, but, hurting cats and all of that.
There's a saying for that.
There's a saying for that. Okay, so my topics, I kind of did because I think Amy's focusing on one specific area. So I was like, let's just do an overview. I'm not going to go through all of them because there are a billion haunted places.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
A billion.
Yep.
And everyone is the most haunted according to the internet. So anyway, I'm not going through all of them, but there were I don't know, I probably found 30 different ones. And so I picked ones that I thought the backstory was interesting. I will say though, also I tried to kind of avoid the ones that were just violent for violence's sake. Because I feel there were so many of those, so much death. A bunch of executions. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
So, skip those. So the first one is probably the most obvious. It's the Tower of London. So it's a historic castle built in the city center. It was founded in the year 1066, which is insane.
Oh my God. Yeah. So old.
So old. As part of the Norman conquest of England. This is literally a direct quote from this website. Like other places with a past filled with skullduggery and fear, this tower is said to be haunted. Skullduggery, guys. Skullduggery. Yep. Skullduggery. Honestly, if that's not the episode title, I don't know what is. I'm literally writing it down so I don't forget. Okay, so basically, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one because I think it's probably kind of obvious. So I'm just going to go through kind of the heavy hitter celeb ghosts that haunt the Tower of London. Anne Boleyn is number one, top of the list. She's head bitch on campus. So she's the second wife of Henry VIII and the first wife that he executed. She's probably the most famous and most persistent of all the tower ghosts. She's seen on the Tower Green, which is where she was executed, in St. Peter ad Vincula. I don't know where she was buried, I guess, exact location on site. And wandering the corridors as a headless body, because she was decapitated. So that's rough. Number two, Henry VI, who met his end as a result of a real life Game of Thrones. Henry VI stood to inherit both the English and French thrones, but the House of York imprisoned him during the War of the Roses, shortly after Edward IV seized the throne in 1471, and Henry VI was stabbed while praying in Wakefield Tower, which his ghost haunts to this day.
Wow. Ooh, spooky.
spooky. What's interesting, and I always like these little details because I feel like they make it feel more likely. He appears only at the last stroke of midnight, which is kind of cool. So I mean, you would assume most people, like the people who have seen him, have said, "Oh, it's the last stroke of midnight."
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of cool. A pattern. Yes. The next is Lady Jane Grey. She was only queen for 9 days before being executed by Mary Tudor, aka Bloody Mary, along with Lady Jane's husband, Lord Guildford Dudley. She was advanced as an Anglican alternative to the Catholic Mary. Lady Jane Grey's ghost is seen wandering the battlements, a lonely, solitary figure.
Wow. I've never even heard of her. I didn't know she was queen ever.
Yeah. 9 days. Yeah. Very. That whole like part of English history, I feel like is like really confusing because everyone has similar names or literally the same name, just with a Roman numeral. And it just confuses the crap out of me.
Same.
So there's some others, lots more in like the royal category. Lord Guildford Dudley. He is seen sitting in his cell in the Beauchamp Tower and weeping late into the night. He's also said to be responsible for the word Jane, as in Grey, etched into the wall there. So it's kind of interesting.
Yikes.
There's a Countess of Salisbury, Margaret Pole. She was a victim of one of the most gruesome and botched executions in history. So she reached the scaffold where she was to be beheaded. She refused to kneel, saying, "So should traitors do, and I am none." When the executioner raised his axe, she ran, and he chased her all around the scaffold, hacking at her until she died a gory death.
Oh, she made it way worse.
She made it way worse. Like, girl, just kneel. Like, come on, sis. Make it quick. Yeah, so that's brutal. Her ghostly screams can still be heard on the Tower Green, and a few visitors claim to have seen a ghostly reenactment of the chase.
Ooh, that would be creepy.
That would be horrifying. The White Lady, so this is the last one I'll end on. There are more. There are like probably 10 more, honestly. But the White Lady is actually like kind of an anonymous one. No one knows actually who she is, like historically speaking, I guess. Her presence is typically announced by an overwhelming smell of cheap perfume, so strong it has made several tower visitors sick, which is like kind of funny. But if you think about like, when you imagine, like when you watch Game of Thrones or like, what's that movie with Mel Gibson? The really famous one. Oh my God. It's like based in medieval times and it's like very gory. Braveheart.
Oh
like
yeah.
You watch movies like that from that era. I actually am not sure if that's the same era, but I assume close enough. And you imagine like the things we have today that they had then, them being the same. Like fear. But like it wasn't the same. It was so watered down and probably gross. And like cheap perfume, like that could have been really nice perfume at the time. But I don't know, it's just kind of funny.
The best they had at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And it smells like ass or like patchouli. And you're like, come on, fucking hippie.
Speaking of that really quick, we went to tour one house because I mentioned my sister's trying to buy a house. We went to tour one. They had, I swear, like 2 Glade plugins per room.
No.
It was, we all had headaches when we left. It was like, do you live with this? I feel like I can relate to those people that got sick from that because it was so overwhelming.
Or was there a naturally bad smell that they were trying to cover up?
Yeah, that's true. Overkill.
That
I don't know.
Grosses me out.
But yeah. Gross.
I hope they're not putting an offer in on that.
No, they did not.
Okay, bless up.
No. Yeah.
So the White Lady. So a few visitors report being tapped on the shoulder, only to turn around and see nothing but a wisp of white. Which is like, I don't know, like what a cute little calling card. She's like, "Bitch,
bye,
bitch." Okay, so that's the Tower of London. The next one is Blickling Hall in Norwich. Is that actually how you say it?
It's probably something weird, like
right?
Norwich.
Not right. I'm pretty sure I'm like not saying it right, but I'm just gonna say it phonetically because sorry.
Yep. Yeah.
So this was at one point. So Blickling Hall is a home. So it's stands on the ruins of a medieval manor house, like the one that exists today. And it was once home to the Boleyn family. So Anne Boleyn herself said to have been born there. So it's kind of not a surprise that it's haunted. She was, like I just said, infamously beheaded by her husband, King Henry VIII, after failing to give him a son and heir to the throne. On the 19th of May each year, which is the anniversary of her death, Anne is said to return to Blickling Hall, arriving in a headless horse-drawn carriage. She is dressed all in white and glides into the hall, roaming the halls until the sun comes up.
Wow.
Woo! Creepy. A member of staff working at Blickling Hall reported seeing a figure of a woman reading a book in the library, who then disappeared when the staff member got closer. Upon looking at the book the woman was reading, the steward discovered that the book was open to a page containing a painting of Anne Boleyn. Just kind of cool. She's like, ooh, look, I'm famous.
Selfie.
Selfie. Medieval selfie. The ghost of Anne Boleyn is not the only spirit believed to reside there. It's also claimed that Sir Henry Hobart haunts the halls. He owned Blickling in the 1600s, and he died there from wounds sustained during a duel.
Just part of life, you know?
Sometimes chapter 5. Right. Sometimes you just really have to duel. So chapter 5,000 of people being stupid. But yeah, died from basically a duel. One warden of the property reported that their dog would never cross the threshold into the room that Hobart died in, but would stand at the doorway with hackles raised. And honestly, like we've said it before, we'll say it again. You listen to the animals. You listen.
They know.
So it has the place Blickling Hall is actually supposed to be really beautiful. So if anyone is traveling in England, there are beautiful tours of the gardens, and maybe you'll catch a glimpse of Anne or Henry.
Cool.
Okay, next one is Pendle Hill in the borough of Pendle. It's a small, isolated hill, and the Pennines. I don't actually know where that is, but somewhere in England, where the so-called Pendle witches lived during the 1700s. During this time, witchcraft was kind of like an accepted part of remote village life, which is kind of interesting, given like in the US at around the same time, I guess a little after, but around the same time, generally a couple centuries, you know, witches were being persecuted in the US, or, you know, quote unquote witches. So they even use witches in quotation marks in this article too. This is from the Heritage Daily. They served small rural communities as healers and practitioners in herbs and medicine. So it's not like they were like putting hexes on people. They were just like, they were like naturopaths, basically. So the story of the Pendle witches starts on the road to Colne in 1612, where Alison Device cursed a peddler, supposedly resulting in him collapsing to the floor in a state of paralysis or from a stroke. The incident was brought before Justice Noel, where Alison confessed, claiming he had been told by the devil, had been told by the devil to lame the man, as well as accusing her own family members and the Chaddocks family of witchcraft that led to an investigation. Sorry if you can hear the mascot.
I think we can definitely hear that.
Thanks. Hey, come here. Wow. So noisy. Hey, buddy. He literally does this and just holds his catnip mouse in his mouth until I throw it from him. He's a dog cat.
We love that, though.
Anyway, yeah, it's pretty adorable. But okay, so this woman curses the dude, and I think maybe like cursing is probably, I'm thinking he was being a dick and she was probably like, hey, pox on you, guy.
Yeah.
And then he dropped dead, basically. And then that led to an inquisition, basically. So trials were held. And also weird, though, like what a narc. She was like, the rest of my family is also witches.
Yeah.
And this other family is also witches. Like, girl, shush.
Yeah.
Shut up. Witches who are snitches get stitches.
Good one.
Oh wow, I'm
She's probably the least
one.
favorite.
Yeah. So trials were held at Lancaster Castle, with the youngest member of the Device family testifying with damning evidence against the accused. Again, narc.
Yeah.
Resulting in 10 people being found guilty of witchcraft and sentenced to death by hanging.
Wow.
Old Demdike, who was, I guess, the head of the family, I would assume the matriarch, died while imprisoned in the castle while awaiting trial. So, like, basically this entire family was wiped out. So the area is like kind of, you know, the story isn't like, the details aren't like known fully or totally confirmed. Like there are historical records that show the trial and outcome of the trial and all of the testimony and stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of like mystery and speculation around it. It attracts, Pendle Hill attracts a ton of people, tourists, during Halloween time, which makes sense. And the 17th century was around the time that there, like, I think a lot of that like hysteria from the US was like kind of bleeding over into Europe.
Yeah.
And there was like mounting hysteria surrounding the idea of witches and practicing witchcraft. And if someone was ill or passed away suddenly, which I think happened a lot back then,
yeah,
witchcraft was usually blamed. So, there were 12 women total who were accused of witchcraft, I think, from those two families. But they actually really became like the Pendle witches are like the most famous witches of this time period in England. It was like a really big deal. And they were the trial was for a murder of 10 people. So it wasn't just Allison, that guy Allison allegedly cursed and killed, but it was like, yeah, very bizarre.
Many
so today,
others.
Today, Pendle Hill is said to be the home to the spirits of the witches who are buried there, overlooking the village of Newchurch. And they're also said to haunt the villages that lie in the hill's shadow. So they have kind of an extensive reach. And honestly, I would haunt a large area as well. Like, you killed me. I was trying to heal you. I was trying to heal you with my herbs, and
you put me here.
You put me here.
You did this.
You did this. Listen, you did this. You look what you made me do.
Yeah.
Hashtag T-Swift. So there are a ton of stories about supernatural encounters with the witches. A number of TV shows have also been filmed there. Zach Bagans, Where You At? So definitely going to check to see if he did an episode there on Ghost Adventures. A lot of crew members for these films have reportedly felt the feeling of being strangled by invisible hands, which would be so alarming.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the last one I have is Whitby Abbey. This was a 7th century Christian monastery, legendary monastery, sat in ruins basically for centuries at this point, but 7th century, like that's wild. It overlooks the North Sea on the eastern cliff of Whitby, North Yorkshire. That's where Whitby Abbey is. And what's so interesting, what caught my eye about this one is it's said to have inspired the castle in Dracula.
Oh,
which is so cool. It's modeled after Whitby Abbey. So I'll be sure to post a photo of it. It's like there's some old school photos, and it's like pretty stunning. It's I don't know. It's not. It looks like ruins, but it's pretty stunning. So it was founded in 657.
Wow.
Like, are you kidding me?
Unfathomable.
Yeah, geez. And one of the main ghosts is thought to be Lady Hilda, who was the first abbess of the abbey. She was thought to have performed several miracles, including banishing a plague of serpents from Whitby using a magic whip. So very like St. Patrick vibes, I guess.
Yeah.
She was canonized by the church and elevated to sainthood. And then 2 centuries later, so in the 800s, 867, the abbey was destroyed by Vikings, which kind of sucks. So it's like, the structure is beautiful, but it looks very like partial because, I mean, it is ruins. So following the Norman conquest, it was rebuilt by a soldier named Rhinefred in service to William the Conqueror. And basically, there was just like a lot of drama in the abbey from that point in time all the way through the mid 1500s. So there was a dissolution of monasteries historically. The abbey was raided and destroyed by Henry VIII's forces. That dude was just
he's everywhere.
Bad news. He just was like, I'm gonna choose violence today every single day. Like, chill out.
Yep. I play by my own rules.
Yeah, like we get it, dude.
Yeah.
So that was in the mid 1500s, and since then the abbey has remained in ruins. So it was never rebuilt properly after that. It's gained the reputation of being haunted, likely due to all of the violence that occurred there, but also it's very isolated. It's very like kind of haunting looking just as it stands. So it's a popular tourist attraction in North Yorkshire for that reason. Not just for the hauntings, but also for the history and the architecture, because a lot of, important people were there or came through there at some point in time. So the first abbess, like I said, Hilda, is thought to be one of the ghosts or spirits that haunts the building. They say on dark nights when the wind blows from the sea, Hilda appears in the highest window of the north side of the abbey. She only manifests for a few moments, forlornly gazing out of the window, and then vanishes.
It's been so there for so long.
I know, long time. And there was another source that shared, and I can't quote it because I couldn't find it again. But so I'm sorry. But one of the things to do with Hilda that, like, they say it's almost like a Bloody Mary thing. Like, it's said that there's a well on the property. It's said that if you look into the well at midnight, one of two things will happen. One, you'll see the face of Hilda, who, as a reminder, is literally a saint. Or you'll see the face of the devil, who will sweep you away to hell. So
no.
Kind of like a high risk, high reward situation.
Yeah. How is that determined which one you'll get?
I don't know. If you're a dick, I guess. I don't know. So there's that one. The second one is who's called the guardian of the lost treasure. So ever since the abbey was closed, there have been rumors of a vast treasure buried somewhere on the grounds. And it has actually, this rumor has brought like actual treasure hunters to the abbey, which is like kind of funny.
Wow.
However, one of those treasure hunters learned the hard way that the treasure actually has a guardian. So a number of years ago, a local minister and his daughter went to the ruins late one night with a shovel in hand and avarice in their hearts. And while digging, the daughter felt a tap on her shoulder. Believing it was her father, she turned to look, and a horrifying sight met her eyes. She let out a blood-curdling shriek and fainted. Her father discovered her as she was just coming to with a crazed look in her eyes. When she regained her senses, she told her father that she saw a towering headless apparition commanding her to leave or die. And since that night, all searches for the treasure have basically ceased, understandably so, because no one wants to anger the treasure's guardian again. So just kind of like a funny like lore. Like, I don't know where the rumors started that there's treasure somewhere, but anyway. And last but not least, this is probably the most disturbing, is the walled up nun.
Oh no.
Walled up. Yeah.
That just sounds bad.
Yeah. So according to legend, Constance de Beverley was a young nun who broke her vow of celibacy, naughty, when she carried on a secret affair with a young knight. When her indiscretion, because it's like, I mean, a knight. Come on. That's like the jock. That's like the frat star of the medieval times.
The quarterback.
Literally. So when her indiscretion was revealed, she was walled up alive in the abbey by her fellow nuns. Other nuns walled her up. Like, come on, ladies.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. So visitors to the abbey in modern day have reported the screams of a woman in agony being carried on the breeze. Which is so creepy.
That's disturbing.
Yeah. Others have reported witnessing the fleeting image of a young woman running through the abbey. It's believed that her ghost is attempting to flee her captors before the judgment was carried out.
Wow. Ooh, spooky.
Come on, Constance. Look, Constance was just trying to get some, you know? You can't
How can you resist a knight?
Right. Like, she was SOL.
In shining armor. Yeah.
Shining armor. Yeah, exactly. So...
True.
Anyway, so that's kind of like a fun little tour of haunted England. That is cool. By no means comprehensive, but I thought it was a good start.
Great job. Scratching the surface.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yay.
All right. So today, also, first of all, my allergies are terrible, so I'm sorry if I keep clearing my throat and I'm like panting into the microphone.
No, you're not. You don't sound honestly congested. Like you sound fine.
Okay, good. All right. So today I'm talking about Cannock Chase, which is a district. So it's not really a city. It's a district within County Staffordshire. And this district has been deemed Cannock Chase District of Outstanding Natural Beauty. So
what?
Yeah. So you can picture it's beautiful, green, forested, and pretty sparsely populated, I think. Kind of rural. So one of the first things that I found in my research of this area was a map made by Richard Pursehouse and Ben Cunliffe, who are two researchers from the area that were interested in mapping like all the spooky incidents that have taken place there. So this map, it doesn't have like just one or two things on it. I counted 19 incidents of all different kinds on this map. And like we've got the werewolf that I talked about last week, aliens, witchcraft, ghost sightings, like demons, and it just goes on and on. So we could share this map maybe if I can find a better quality image of it. But it's kind of crazy how much is going on here. So I wanted to briefly revisit the werewolf from last week because I mentioned the origin story of that. But I have it like written in somebody else's words right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So here's the quote. It says, "The devil is given responsibility for a lot of evil stuff, from curses to the music of Charlie Daniels, but he may also be to blame for the werewolves of Cannock Chase in England. According to local legend, everything started getting weird in 1975. That's when a 17-year-old boy in central England took out his Ouija board to test its powers. He said he would trade the devil his soul for the power to turn into a werewolf. Shortly after, a friend said that he received a phone call from the teen, but could only hear odd guttural noises from him. That same young man was found dead soon after. He had killed himself with a silver knife. Silver is, of course, the only way to kill a werewolf."
Whoa, what?
Yeah. But that, though, doesn't explain why there would still be a werewolf if he killed himself with a silver knife. But still, that's kind of an interesting story.
What if he wasn't alone? What if it was him and friends who were like, make me a werewolf?
Yeah, that's true. So that came from a Ranker article, and it sounds like that's just limited to the origin of the werewolf and not whatever else is happening there. But maybe it had something to do with other things as well, if that is what happened. And another theory, though, is that satanic rituals might have been performed at this place called Castle Ring Hill Fort, which is now a historic monument. But they don't know what its early use was. And in a photo I saw of it from above, it's just like a big stone wall built in the middle of the forest. So people were just guessing maybe there's something weird that went on in there. But
some witchy shit.
Yeah, exactly. So
love to hear it.
This is going to be all over the place. So the first thing I want to focus on, this has been acknowledged to be an urban legend, but the story is so weird that I just had to share it.
Okay.
And some people do say that they've seen this, but I think it's just an urban legend, but you can be the judge. So this is known as the Pig Man. And
no.
Yeah.
I already don't like it.
Yeah, it's disturbing. So get ready. His story goes that at some point in the 1940s, Army officials from the US and the UK were conducting experiments at the Cannock Chase military facility, which is out in the woods. And they were researching, for whatever reason, crossbreeding between pigs and humans, which is like, why?
Literally, why?
People who believe in the existence of the pig man, they're like, well, the pig and human genetic makeup is similar. Sometimes we use pig skin for skin grafts, things like that. So they're like trying to make it make sense. But still, no matter what they were doing, there's not at all a good reason for what they did next, supposedly, which was that they kidnapped and hypnotized a woman and implanted in her a half-human, half-pig embryo.
Come on!
I know. And so 9 months later, I know, this pig human child was born, and he had an unusually large head and a pig-like snout and nose. And through his life, these researchers supposedly continued to conduct like invasive experiments on him, and eventually he escaped, just seeking peace in the forest. And it sounds like that's really all he wanted, was to just get away from there and live in peace and quiet, because any of the people that say they've seen him, it's been from a distance. Nothing sinister has happened. And yeah, it just seems like he wants to be alone. But those people describe him as being very tall and unkempt, with a human body, but a distorted face and a distinct snout. And others have reported hearing crazy, loud squealing out in the chase, which they attribute to the pig man. However, one man named Lee Brickley, he claims to have received proof that this is a fake story while he was writing his book, which is called UFOs, Werewolves, and the Pig Man. And he said that while he was doing his research, he received an email from somebody who wished to remain anonymous, but they turned out to be a reliable source, saying that his grandfather worked in that facility, and he was tasked with spreading a rumor that would keep people out of the forest, where they were actually working on wartime, like sensitive wartime projects.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Can you imagine being the one to make up a story that's now part of local lore? It's pretty cool.
That's wild.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Pigman. Poor thing. Okay. I hope that it's
I know.
fake.
Jeez.
But yeah, the next thing is Cannock Chase was named a hotspot for UFO sightings in a report released by the Ministry of Defense in 2008. And the report included documents that went back to 1986, including communications between the Ministry of Defense and the Staffordshire Police Department, trying to figure out how to explain these, quote, silent balls of light that had been spotted circling over Pie Green Tower, it's called. Some cigar-shaped tubes of light flying over Burntwood, and a 10-foot-long light hovering over Stafford Road. So there were all these incidents, and they were like, how are we supposed to explain this to people?
Yeah.
And then another story that was in that report is from 1995, when two boys went to the police to warn them of an entity with a lemon-shaped head that they saw out in a field. Okay. I'm just picturing like Hey Arnold with the football head.
Helga chasing after him. Moving football head.
Amazing.
Hey Arnold. Oh, that show was fucking gold.
I loved that show. It was great.
Me too. It was so good.
Okay, so then the experience, though, in this report that was shared by the most people occurred in July of 2008, when many, I don't know the exact number, reported seeing orange lights that would move and then abruptly stop. And there were comments below this article from readers, which was from the BBC, mind you, so it's a reputable source. And these comments were people saying that they saw this. And I think this one sums it up best. So he wrote, there was 4 lights, 3 of them, which were...
There was 4 lights!
There was 4 lights. 3 of them, which were in a triangular formation. I'm going to read it normally now. But there were 4 lights, 3 of them which were in a triangular formation, with 1 light set to the left. The lights seemed to move simultaneously right, then stop dead before disappearing into the night. I would say these lights were there for roughly 8 minutes. And then he said, if anyone has any information on what this could be, feel free to explain, but no one answered him. So, and then the last creepy alien story was not in this report, but it was from a different article I saw, that a mother and her daughter were out for a walk in the Chase, and they left at a certain time. I don't know what time, but when they returned, there were 4 hours of the day that they were like, I have no recollection of anything in these last 4 hours.
That's weird.
Yeah, which this article said that's a common thing with alien abductions. It's like you just don't remember.
Lose time.
And then when the mom came to, or whatever the right word would be, she had markings on her hands, and the date October 27th was written on her hand, which of course made her very fearful that something bad was going to happen on that day.
Right.
But the article that shared that story was published in 2014, and I couldn't find anything to indicate that something had actually happened on October 27th, but it'd be interesting to hear from that person if anything happened after all. But yeah, those are the aliens.
That would be horrifying to like come to with a date on you and you're like,
what does this mean?
What's that mean?
Yeah, so creepy. But lots of aliens there. And then the last thing, I'm going to do this kind of quickly because I think we should do a whole episode on this.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
The black-eyed children.
Yes.
Have you heard
yes!
of them before?
Yes.
They're so creepy.
So terrifying. We have to do a full episode on that.
Because there was a I think it was on Thought Catalog, so it was like a blog, but it was this person who had gathered a bunch of stories about people who had seen black-eyed children that she read on Reddit. And I think, we could just like share all of those on that episode because they were so creepy. But
yes.
Anyway, as you can guess, black-eyed children are children, usually under the age of 16, who have pitch black eyes. And when they appear, they're usually trying to appeal to the person they appear to for help of some kind. Or like, hey, we need a ride, we need to use your phone, something like that. And none of the stories I read about encounters with black-eyed children had details of what might happen if you actually help them, because thankfully everyone was like, no, something's wrong here, because the feeling of like dread and fear and anxiety is so strong when you're in their presence that you just know you're in danger. So, okay. But specific to Cannock Chase, we go back to Lee Brickley, who was the author of that book, UFOs, Werewolves, and the Pigman. And he was inspired to write that book because his aunt had an encounter with a black-eyed child in Cannock Chase.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he wrote of her story. She stumbled upon a dirt track and caught sight of the 6 to 8-year-old girl, running in the opposite direction, shouting, "Help, help." By now it was getting dark, and the little girl had reached an area of very densely planted, thick and bushy trees. She turned around to face my auntie, looked her dead in the eyes, and then ran off into the dark, compact woodland. At this point, probably very wisely, the decision was made to give up. And he says, in my mind, it seems likely that even if my auntie had continued to chase the little girl, she would never have caught her, because it wasn't a child at all, but an evil force planning to do away with my own family member.
Ooh, that gave me chills.
Yeah, I know. Anything with children, because they're just supposed to be so innocent
vulnerable
and sweet, and then when they're not, it's like,
yikes.
And then just to end with a couple more stories that were shared with him when he was doing his research. So this first one, on Saturday, 13th September, my wife and I were walking through Cannock Chase near to Stile Cop with our dog. Once we had entered the woodland and the road was no longer visible, we started to hear the giggling noise of a little girl. To our amazement, a child, no taller than 1 meter in height, appeared as if out of nowhere further up the path in front of us. We stopped dead in our tracks after noticing her eyes had no color. This is painful to read. Her head was tilted to the side in much the same way it would appear if she had been hung. So it's that
God, you always
neck thing again.
Neck thing. I'm so sorry.
Yikes. So he goes on. She stared at us for around 5 minutes before running away into a densely grouped area of trees. My wife wanted to follow her, but I was having none of it. It's like, what's wrong with your wife? Why would she follow her?
Is she okay?
Yeah. Yikes.
But that's the thing that's kind of interesting about black-eyed kids, and like we'll get into this when we do the full episode, but I think just like initially is you'd think that so if you think about like demons, like in like creatures in that category, entities in that category, that they would want to be compelling, like if they're like predators basically, that they would want to be compelling to their quote unquote prey, which is usually us. So it's bizarre to me that it's like, let's admit a sense of deep, intense dread. Like, that's going to attract someone. So it's kind of funny because like he clearly picked up on it, but I wonder if it's that they like they happen to, like, we don't hear about people who've helped them and what happens because the people who help them go missing, you know, and they're just like blocked energetically from that feeling for whatever reason.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Or just like go against their instincts because they're like, oh, this is a child that needs help.
Yeah. Their logic. They're being logical.
Yeah. What I would do in that situation. Because I feel like if a child was asking me for help, it would be hard to say no. But
yeah, if they look at you with black eyes, though, I think you're going to be like, something's wrong. Sorry, no, not today. Like, no.
Maybe next time. But yeah. Okay, one last one. This is another one written in for his research, and it goes... Around 2 months ago, my daughter and I were walking through Birches Valley when we heard the screams of a young child. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl, but they definitely seemed in distress and sounded very close to us, so we instantly started running toward the noise. We couldn't find the child anywhere and so stopped to catch our breath, but that's when I turned around and saw a girl standing behind me. No more than 10 years old, with her hands over her eyes, like she was waiting for a birthday cake.
Nope.
Yeah. I asked her if she was okay, and if she had been the one screaming. She then put her arms down by her side and opened her eyes, which is when I saw they were completely black. No iris, no white, nothing. I jumped back and grabbed my daughter, and when I looked again, the child was gone. It was strange, really. I knew something was going to happen even before it did. I just had a weird feeling. So that is so scary.
Ew, that's terrifying. And to be with your kid,
yeah.
Like, you have to protect your kid, you know? Yeah. So, like, nothing can happen to you because you have to protect the kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That made my palms so sweaty.
I know. And the image of, like, covering the eyes and then suddenly uncovering is so
And I'm picturing it being very, like, theatrical, like, elbows out, like, just being fucking creepy.
Yeah. And then, like, maybe smiling, too, you know? Just
that, yes, exactly. That's exactly, like... Closed lipped smile. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sadly, people speculate that there may be black-eyed children in this area because there were a few child murders that took place there in the 60s. So could be related to that, sadly. But yeah, there's like even more that we could talk about in this place, but I thought those were
I love it. No,
surface level. So yeah,
it's great coverage, and I think like inspires us to dig more into black-eyed kids.
Yes,
because we have to have a whole episode dedicated to that. There are so many encounters with them.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Ugh. And when I was reading that thought catalog one, she had a little note saying like everyone that described having an encounter with a black-eyed child already knew that they existed.
Yeah.
So it was like, now I know about them. Like,
I know.
I wish I never read this.
Well, I've known about them for a few years, and I have never encountered one. So
okay, thank goodness.
We reject that energy.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yes.
Black-eyed kids.
No
demons.
Thank you. Yeah.
No ghosts.
No, nothing at all.
No ghosties.
No.
Wow.
Well, yeah. There we go.
Yo. England is haunted as
Yep. I'm not surprised.
It's so
got
old,
the vibes.
you know?
Yeah.
It's got the vibes. Vibe is high.
Yes. Yep.
In like a spooky way. Spooky vibes are high.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for episode 30. It's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We TBD on what we'll cover next week. We'll probably take another little break from haunted places, do some other stuff, maybe black-eyed kids.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Uh-huh.
And then, follow us on social, on Facebook and Instagram at Girls Gone Spooky. If you have your own spooky encounters with ghosts, aliens, any other creature,
Anything.
werewolves, black-eyed kids, email us, please, at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com.
Yes, please.
Thank you for joining. Stay spooky.
Thank you. Stay spooky. Bye.